Hello, I'm Cindy Ehrenberg-Seltzer, President and CEO of the Children's Services Council of Broward County. Welcome to another episode of Future First, Focus on Broward's Children. It used to be one of Broward County's best-kept secrets. Can't say it's still much of a secret, but did you know that Broward College just turned 60 years old? Established in 1959 and beginning operations in 1960, the mission of Broward College is transforming students' lives and enriching our diverse community by providing high-quality, affordable education and meaningful career opportunities. What was until recently known as Broward Community College has come a long way since those first days of 28 faculty members and fewer than 1,000 students being educated on borrowed grounds at the edge of the airport. Now, with more than 5,000 on staff and serving about 63,000 students, Broward College is firmly woven into the growth and successes of Broward County. Today, I'm very happy to have as my guest the president of Broward College, Mr. Gregory Hale, who I've known long before his current tenure. I've known him since he was in private practice as an attorney and a board member at 211 Broward. I also have the pleasure of serving on the board of Village Square, a Broward College initiative. Greg's been president since July 2018, and he's already put his stamp on the direction and vision for Broward College, building on the successes of previous administrations. Welcome. So nice to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me, Cindy.
I can't believe it's the first time I've had you on the show since in all these years.
No, it's exciting to be here. Thank you for having me.
So, it's now been about a year since you've taken over the helm, and you've got some pretty big shoes to fill.
Sure.
But I know you've been doing a great job filling them. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've been up to over the last year and some of the exciting things going on at Broward College?
Absolutely. Thank you again for the opportunity. So, indeed, there are big shoes to fill. One of the things I think about this institution is it has such a great legacy of excellence and a great legacy of leadership. Indeed, 60 years ago, we started and now embark on an organization that has about 63,000 students. And notwithstanding all the things that we've accomplished in the past, whether it be the multiple top 10 Aspen recognitions, of course we were just recognized again in 2019 as one of the top 10 institutions. Thank you. We have to continue to think about how we can become the very best version of ourselves. And you talked a little bit about our mission. In large part, it's about providing access, providing opportunity. And as we continue to think about ourselves as an open access institution, we have to question, how good are we at ensuring that our institution is truly accessible to those who need us, to those who need the opportunity? How well are we doing at addressing affordability challenges, transportation insecurity, or technology insecurity, and a whole host of issues that can get in the way of people having financial success and educational success? So that's been a big part of our focus. We have 5,000 motivated people who know the challenges that exist in our community, but contemporaneously know the power of post-secondary education.
So one of the things I love about the way you've embraced the challenge is you're really getting into the community in some unique ways.
Yeah.
I've seen you at so many different community meetings, your people are out there, and you seem to be looking for ways to find the students and help them get to the college, or in some cases bring the college to them.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little about that?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about my own personal experiences, and I'll share what we're trying to do here and how we're operationalizing some of the changes. So, I did not have the great pleasure of growing up in South Florida. It's an area that I love, but I grew up in South Jamaica, Queens, New York. And I grew up there during the 80s and 90s, and it was at the height of the crack epidemic, and there was tremendous crime in my neighborhood. And so every window in my home had bars on it. I lost friends to the left and the right of my home, and there were all kinds of challenges in the community. And so my mother did something that I consider to have been very courageous. She essentially lied about my home address so that I could go to school in a better neighborhood. And so what I would do is I would go through the projects, this is starting in 3rd grade or so, and I'd get on the bus and stay on the bus for 45 minutes, and then I'd walk for another 15 minutes before I arrived at school. And I'll never forget, it was 1989, and I was graduating from elementary school, 6th grade. And I said to a friend who was from the neighborhood and certainly better off financially than I was and my family was, and I said, "Isn't this amazing? We're going to be the last class of the decade." It was 1989. And he immediately responds, "No, we're going to be the last class of the millennium because we're going to graduate college in 1999. Now, mind you, this was the very first time I'd ever heard the word college. Not that I thought much of it then, but the more and more I think about it in retrospect, I can't stop thinking about the reality that I was a sixth grader hearing about college for the first time from another sixth grader that knew exactly when he was going to graduate. And to me, that is too large a crevasse to not want to try to figure out how to fill. And that's part of our existence, right? Our existence is not simply to expose ourselves to the lucky student who somehow finds themselves an hour away and hears the word college. We have to figure out how we're going to engage community. So here's what it started to look like. We started a program. We've really expanded our business model and what we've coined Broward Up. UP meaning the unlimited potential of all of those in our community, not just those who can get to us. And what that has meant to us is actually going into communities and living there. And we couldn't do it ourselves. We knew that right away. We had to ask ourselves, how would we develop the partnerships that would be appropriate to satisfy this expanded version of our mission? And so the reception has been incredible. What we've been able to do is work with a number of municipalities, the city of Lauderdale Lakes, Lauderhill. We actually just signed an agreement with the city of Tamarack, and we're looking at expanding out to more agreements as well, the city of Fort Lauderdale, the city of West Park also among them, in which they're giving us space. And we're actually going into some of our most challenged communities and providing post-secondary education there. Oftentimes you see opportunities dancing in and out of communities that need them most. We're actually going to be living in those communities. We're already doing that and providing post-secondary education with Broward College flags and banners where people can look down the street, again, not get lucky like I did, but look down in their neighborhoods and know I can go right there and go to college. Outside of municipalities, it's been nonprofit organizations that have been incredibly supportive of this work. The Urban League, our very first site, in which they decided they would allow us to use their space again to provide post-secondary education in the backyard of the neighborhoods that need us most. There's the Jack and Jill Children's Center. There are county libraries that have opened up their doors. Of course, they have the technology infrastructure and the space to allow us to be in those communities that need us most. And it has been, again, an incredibly warm reception. Boys and Girls Club, the Broward County Housing Authority, the list continues to grow as we think about identifying where we needed most and planting ourselves in the heart of those communities. And it's been phenomenal, the difference that we've already seen.
Absolutely brilliant, just amazing. I was talking to someone earlier and I said, you know, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
So as you just illustrated, as a sixth grader, college, that was a foreign concept to
Right.
you. So by being in those communities and really having that be a vision for children who never before would have thought that was possible, we've
right.
seen how that light can go on too, even with child care providers.
Yes.
As the college has been so wonderful as to
Right.
open their doors for training programs for those people who work in preschool education.
right.
And they're like, I've never been on a
Yeah,
college campus.
that's
This
right.
is amazing.
It's remarkable the power of proximity, whether it's getting folks to our campus or bringing Broward College to those communities. You know, one of the, you talk about what we don't know and the power of not knowing, right? Just, we know that folks have the ability, they have the skill sets, they have the work ethic, but may not necessarily know how to get there. I'll share another quick story with you, and it's around, you know, I mentioned that I grew up in South Jamaica, Queens, New York, but I have a lot of family that grew up and lived in South Carolina, and that's where I would go for my summers. And I actually thought, for some reason, I know why, because I loved the experiences that I had with my family. I have about 130 cousins,
Wow.
and we would have so much fun together growing up as kids. But as you get older, you know, maybe you grow a little bit further apart. The love is still there, but you don't see each other as often. And one of the most remarkable conversations I've ever had in my life was when I was meeting with my cousins, and I was probably in my late 20s, early 30s, and many of them did not get the same opportunities. They were just as smart as I was. They come from the same family, have an extraordinary work ethic, but life didn't turn out as comfortable for them as it did for me. And in a deep conversation, we would talk, and they would say, you know what, I ended up being the first person in my family to go to college. And they talked about how they wanted that and wished they had that and wished they had those opportunities, but simply didn't know how, right? And so you think about what that means to folks, not just as children, but throughout their lives, and the impact that simply not knowing has. And among the things we do know, and one of the things I love about this county, and I know you do as well, Cindy, because we talk about it, is how when we identify challenges, we try to address it collectively, right? No one body, no one entity, but trying to address it collectively. So here's what we do know. We know that 50 years ago, the bottom quartile of income earners had about 6% of their kids graduating from college. 6%. The top quartile had about 40% 50 years ago. And you think about where we are today. So fast forward 50 years, the top 25% has gone from 40% of their kids graduating from college to somewhere about 77 to 80%. Seen tremendous growth among the top quartile of income earners. But the bottom quartile has gone from a mere 6% of their kids graduating from college, this is baccalaureate degrees, to just 9% in 50 years. Wow. Okay, 9. So as we continue to think what I would consider to have healthy conversations around income stratification and wealth stratification, recognizing that nearly every economist will tell you that the impact on your wealth is determined in large part by your academic attainment. So we're seeing static attainment among those who need it most. This is where the coalescence is necessary. This is where Broward Up is having a great impact, because now we're getting to the heart of communities, perhaps where most of them are coming from the bottom quartile, and trying to own this challenge, not just us, but the partners that we've described and the partners that continue to be added to the list. And as we continue to push and hold ourselves accountable, we have to ask ourselves, well, how well are we doing? How many students are we putting through? In year one, we put about 689 students through Broward Up programming. Already in the first quarter, we're up to over 240 or so students in the first quarter of this academic year. And we'll continue to grow with the support from partnerships such as nonprofit organizations, municipalities, donorship, and the business community as well.
Wow. And I know we've also had a great partnership working through the nonprofit organizations on the programs that CSC is funding in the middle and high schools to connect them to Broward College, and also in our Healthy Youth Transitions. You've always been amazing in reaching out to those children who are aging out of the foster care system and making sure that they see that as a trajectory. And our statistics are better than anywhere else in the country, I think, on all of that.
Absolutely, and your leadership has always been great in this regard. We partner with Handy, and they're obviously a great organization helping with foster students and who've come to us, and we've had a number of graduates from there. And then I think about the partnership that we have with the Jack and Jill Children's Center. As you know, they have a multi-generational impact model where they're focused on the child as well as the parent. And so, you know, these partnerships, they've not been cookie cutter. They've been very nuanced based on the resources that are available and the models of the partners as well. And so Jack and Jill is interesting, but because of their multi-generational model, we've been able to get in front of the children and contemporaneously provide classes on site to the parents who have their children at Jack and Jill's Children's Center. And so we'll continue to find creative ways. We welcome all partners to come forward, those who have a significant focus on helping people, helping their economic development through post-secondary education. And I want to be clear, because sometimes this gets a little bit amorphous. Post-secondary education is not necessarily baccalaureate degrees. It may not even be associate degrees, but even getting certificate training out there where people can, in a short period of time, some people don't have 2 years or 4 years to dedicate, but maybe it's a few months, or maybe it's a one-day program that can help you get a skill to help make a difference in your life. Some people are at a point where maybe they're making $10 an hour and they need to get to $20 an hour, and that can make a magnificent difference in their lives. And by the way, after that, they can continue to ladder themselves up, but we recognize we want to be a starting point. We want to be the entry point to taking your life from where it is to someplace better that maybe they've imagined but not figured out how to get there yet.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I know you've also brought different kinds of programming in to introduce people to careers they may not have thought about.
Right, right.
And for those, I heard recently, maybe a couple of years ago, not necessarily a career ladder, which implies straight up, but a career lattice, because you don't know how those things are knit together.
Right, right.
Can you talk about some of the different programming that you've brought in, or different careers that you're now providing opportunities
Yeah,
for?
and introducing to, so there are a variety of ways that we're actually doing this. I'll talk about a couple of them. So dual enrollment programming, for example, finding ways to introduce, you talk about getting into younger individuals. So one of the things in dual enrollment programming, for those in your audience that may not be aware, it's where students in high school, and while in high school and moving towards their high school diploma, they can actually take college level credit coursework, and on occasions, like with programs we're developing, be able to get a certificate that's marketable to the workforce opportunities that exist. And so one of the ways we've done this, last year we actually launched a program with Miramar High School in the field of aviation. Now, oftentimes you'll talk to someone and you say, you mention aviation, and they go, oh, you mean become a pilot? Right? And they don't necessarily realize all the fields that exist in aviation maintenance or avionics and all these programs that exist with a certificate. And by the way, you can be making $50,000+ a year in these careers. And so part of it is finding ways to penetrate those that otherwise don't see it. And dual enrollment technical certifications in our dual enrollment programs have been a great way to do that. We actually, when we started a year or so ago, we had about 39 students in our first class. We were expecting much less. 39, about a third were women. And so in aviation, that's actually a really high number. So we're excited about that because we've created the opportunity for students to see this. And I'll tell you, one of my favorite stories about that is that there was a student, I said, how did you get here? I met with the students and I just was curious why they decided to do it. And they all said one thing, oh, one of my classmates told me, So I said, who's that classmate? And he raised his hand. And I said, why did you tell everyone? He said, because I knew there was an opportunity to do something good and I wanted to share it with my friends, right? Mm-hmm. And so you continue to look at, we're creating the opportunity, but then they're creating it for each other, right? They want to help each other at the end of the day. We also launched a similar program at South Broward High School in marine engineering, and we're looking at doing that more. The school district has been an extraordinary partner, again, at trying to bring ideas and opportunities that otherwise are not readily apparent. But with these partnerships, students are seeing it, they're getting the opportunities, and they're taking advantage of the opportunities.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, it's been great.
One of the other bridges that's been really interesting, the one I'm a little passionate about, the Village Square.
Oh, of course, yes.
And the way that started as civil discourse on issues of the day for grown-ups, if you will, adults.
Sure.
But it's really penetrating now into the student body as well. Can you talk a little about the initiative itself and how you're spreading it into the school?
Absolutely. So we actually started the Village Square about 6 or so years ago, and thank you very much for your service and on the board of the Village Square. It's been one of these endeavors that as we think about our role in the community, so prototypically, of course, you're thinking about how well are we doing at transferring our students to universities, how well are we doing at getting our students into the workforce and being accessible to those students, but then some of the other things we think about is what are our contributions to the community? And where are we giving the community an opportunity to have valuable discussions about important elements, whether it be at the local, state, or federal level about our existence? So most recently, as you know, we talked about the upcoming census and making sure that people were aware of the census and the importance of it and what the downsides are of not participating and the upsides and importance of participating. And the key is to try to figure out, and sometimes it doesn't appear divisive, but to try to find what are the challenging issues out there that sometimes we don't necessarily do a good job of wrestling with and finding a civil way to do that. So we have both sides of the political aisle. We have Republicans, we have Democrats, and we have NPAs as well, no party affiliations, coming together. And oftentimes we see tremendous vitriol around divisive issues. And I think it provides a tremendous example for our community as well as our students on how to take some of the most challenging issues, have a fact-based civil discussion, and perhaps most importantly, coming together to recognize it's okay to have different opinions around these things, particularly when you know that we're all focused on enhancing our community and our state.
It's one of the things I love because I don't believe anybody has a corner on the market of good ideas.
That's right.
But nowadays, or even 6 years ago, when David Armstrong brought it forward, there was still so difficult to hear people actually express a thought and say, let me hear what you have to say, here's what I have to say. Maybe there's some value in both ideas and we can come to some sort of consensus. It doesn't always work, even when it's civilly done. but you can get a lot further if you actually listen to each other and have respect for each other. And I think the Village Square has done that really well.
No, thank you very much. Thank you.
CSC has made a point to bring students to the table from the beginning to make sure there's always some high school students who are getting the benefit of this debate. And now I know with the census conversation, you actually had three. You had them going on not only for us, the traditional Village Square members,
Right.
but also on all three of your campuses.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
And each of them designed by the students, if I'm not mistaken,
Right.
and took a slightly different tack in each school.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, not only are we doing in the community at large, but making sure that our students, because they see some of the challenges that we see, and they are very interested in trying to figure out how do we address some of those challenges. One of our discussions was around climate change, and our students are very aware of some of the challenges around that, but they also want to figure out how to address it from a solutions-based perspective, and also hear all ideas around what those solutions should look like. And that's a perfect example of the importance of hearing all of the ideas. So we do that with our students. We do that on each of our campuses. And of course, it's critically important for us to have our students engaged in all types of political and civic engagement. We actually have had the privilege over the last several years to be able to host 2 gubernatorial debates now, and 1 U.S. Senate debate, and which have been absolutely incredible to experience, obviously, for our community and for the college. But we always have our students engaged as well, right? The students will play the role of the candidates, and we'll do mock debates and presentations. Our faculty, who are extraordinary, every award that we win, our faculty is so important and critical to that, as well as our staff. But they play a role in making sure that our students are engaged as well. So when we have these debates, oftentimes they're leveraging their coursework to ensure that students are engaging in something civically in their coursework, tying it to the debates that are forthcoming. And so it's been a great collection of individuals at the institution finding ways to enhance and broaden the perspective of our students, not just politically, but globally as well.
Really nice. I think it might be worthwhile to explain a little bit about the diversity of your student body as well. It's not just your traditional out of high school student.
Right.
In fact, I think you probably have more non-traditional students. So can you talk a little bit about who makes up that 63,000 student body?
No, thank you for asking. So we cherish our diversity. We think it's one of the greatest strengths that we have. We now have, among our 63,000 students, about 150 countries of origin represented among our student body.
Wow.
We have somewhere around 45 to 50 languages spoken among our student body. And among our 63,000, we have about 18,000 African American students. We have about 16 to 17,000 Hispanic students. In fact, last year, we were ranked #1 in the nation in terms of graduates who are African American. And we were second in the nation in graduates who were Hispanic. And so we love that it's been so attractive. Our institution, our community has been so attractive to folks of diverse backgrounds. Now, that's only one element of diversity, to the point you raised earlier. Only about a third of our students come directly out of high school. Our average age student is about 27 years old. I've been at the college I'm in my 9th year at the college. Every year we have a graduate who is somewhere around 70 years old. Wow. And every year we have a graduate who is somewhere around 16 or 17 years old, who is a dual enrollment student. And of course we serve everyone in between. And in fact, from a workforce perspective, it's been really fascinating. I was having a meeting just this morning in which I learned that we have 5 generations of employees at Broward College. 5, right? And so it's really remarkable. And so when we think about not only the diversity of our student body, but the diversity of our colleagues as well at the college, it really is a remarkable blend of folks who come together despite what might be perceived as differences, but really recognizing the magic and the diversity that we have in doing great things as an institution.
Well, we have just about 2 minutes left. Any final thoughts you'd like to share that I haven't asked you about yet?
I would only like to share that this is an institution that exists to serve this community. We serve our students, we serve our colleagues, and we serve the community at large. We are here to make a difference in the lives of others. And I always try to challenge ourselves. If we're missing out on serving someone that otherwise should be, we have to figure it out. Don't get caught up in the barriers, but making sure that we're providing the opportunity for those who need it. And for those who are listening, to know that there's an opportunity with Broward College, regardless of your challenges. We embrace you, we embrace your challenge, because we know that with a post-secondary certificate or degree, you can make a positive difference in your life.
I, for one, am extremely glad that your sixth grade colleague told you that you were going to be the class of 1999 and that you followed that path, because it's been an impressive one. And it's just a delight to work with you. And I can't wait to see what else we can accomplish together and to help support you on this journey.
Thank you so much, Cindy. Again, thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. So Broward College is certainly one of the treasures of our community. I think that's been amply demonstrated over the last half hour. I want to thank President Gregory Hale for sharing all of the exciting and innovative initiatives that I hope our audience will find of interest, especially those who are looking to expand their academic and professional horizons or know someone else who is. I've been your host, Cindy Ehrenberg-Seltzer. For this or any other episode of Future First, Focus on Broward's Children, go to our website, cscbroward.org, where you can access our YouTube channel, follow us on social media, and remember to join us next time on Future First, Focus on Broward's Children.